Hi, it's Michèle from Jasami Publishing here with episode 5 of the Jasami Bookworm podcast. Today I am working from my office and looking out at clouds and sunshine, but no rain, thankfully. And I'm delighted to say that my guest over Zoom today is writer N.C. Campbell, who goes by Nat.
Hi.
And Hi Nat. And we'll be chatting about Nat's journey in writing. So Nat, welcome to the Jasami podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
We're always delighted to speak to writers of every genre and development of expertise. So let's begin with telling our listeners about the beginning of your writing journey.
Yeah, so I started off writing since I was teeny tiny. Before I could even hold a pen myself, I would write stories with my mum on little post-it notes and keep them in a shoebox. So I have been writing since pretty much before I could write, sort of finding ways to tell stories. As a teenager, I found writing to be a really sort of cathartic way to sort of explore, difficult things I was going through and to express emotions that I was struggling with. And then as an adult, I sort of decided that studying English with creative writing at university would be something that I'd be really interested in, and sort of as a way to continuing to improve on my writing. And so I did that and graduated last year.
Excellent. Well, now how we found each other is another interesting story, but yours included another journey. So please tell us about Arkbound, because that is how we found each other.
Yeah, so Arkbound is a charity that sort of supports writers and creators from sort of underrepresented communities to sort of get into publishing and into writing. Sort of for anyone that sort of comes from a disadvantaged background or anything like that could mean that sort of getting into the publishing industry would be difficult for them. That's sort of who they support. So for me, I found Arkbound as I was looking for a way to continue writing after university. I wasn't really looking to do any further studying, but I wanted a reason to keep on writing. And so I found Arkbound on Creative Scotland and their mentorship scheme, which is of course how we met. So I sort of rushed through my application. I'd found it the day before the deadline, so I really didn't think I was going to hear back from them, as I'd applied for quite a few different courses and schemes and things, and just hadn't heard anything. But I got an email back straight away from a lovely person called Matisse, and then a couple of weeks later I was accepted onto the mentorship program where I was matched up with yourself. So I was really excited to sort of find out more about the publishing industry and sort of how to get into it, and just to sort of get those connections and access to someone who is already involved in it and has sort of been through the process of publishing before as well. And so Arkbound really sort of provided that opportunity for me to meet yourself.
And that's actually Arkbound. That's what brought us together. I came in from the other avenue of Arkbound. Since it is a charity, they're always looking for volunteers, and one of the levels that they look for is on mentors and people who are involved in the publishing industry, in the writing industry, who can actually provide guidance and assistance to just yourself. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And so as a mentor for the charity, it was absolutely wonderful, because Jasami Publishing has a commitment to community, I like to call it. And our community isn't just about where we live locally. It's also about, a global commitment. And we've got commitments all over that we, work with here in Scotland, in England, and even in Zambia. The ones that involve writers are very near and dear to my heart. So now we came together. I was the mentor, you were the mentee, and this was very different from your history. So how did you find the process of the reviewing of your writing different from what you had experienced before?
Yeah, so I was actually really, really nervous to have you look at my work. I'd submitted a little bit on the application, but it was such a minor amount that actually sending over all my words to you was very concerning. I'd sort of started writing the story that has now become Call of the Void all the way back in 2013, which was actually just a year after my mum had died. And so I'd written it as a way to sort of process and deal with the emotions and all the things that sort of threw up for me. And sort of slowly added little bits onto it as and when I could over the next 8 years until there was around 20,000-ish words. And then because I met you and because we sort of sat down and looked at those 20,000 words, I ended up writing 60,000 in the last 8 months. So our sort of review of that and your mentorship sort of really did a flip on how focused and how much that story has actually been told, because I think otherwise, if I was just writing it for myself, I wouldn't have gotten all that done, you know?
It is, it's amazing, Nat, sorry to interrupt, but it's amazing how committed you get when you've got someone nudging you along.
Yes, definitely.
Because when you don't have, you need to have a goal. You have to have something that you want to reach for. And once you've got that, then it's absolutely wonderful, because there are a few of us, and they're very far between, that are absolutely driven, no matter what. And some of us need a goal and, that little, cake at the end of the day, or a glass of wine or something that's a reward that we look for. And in this case, we're looking forward to it being a published book. So I have to say that when I have to say that when I read your work, I was really impressed with the writing. I know it was, cobbled, but it's just the story that comes together. So without revealing any spoilers, please tell us about the story, because I know the listeners are just dying to hear about it.
Yeah, of course. So it's a sort of sci-fi space adventure set in a galaxy not too far away from ours, however, rather far off in the future, sort of governed by a body called the Interplanetary Alliance and policed by the Galactic Armed Intelligence Agency, or aka Gaia. So the story itself follows a mercenary named Arctic, a nameless girl he accidentally rescues, a scientist attempting to solve a crisis in oxygen across all the planets, and a ruthless Gaia agent who is chasing them all across the galaxy. All the characters kind of have a choice to make throughout the book, sort of whether they're going to stay as they are in their life, or to sort of jump off the ledge and answer the call of the void, hence the title. So yeah, it's very exciting. It feels very cool to have it sort of as a full, complete story.
Which is absolutely wonderful. Now, do you have a favorite character, or is there a character that has any of your personality traits, or are you going to share?
I'm sure they all have some different parts of my personality. As the sort of story has sort of formed and been written over such a long time, there's certainly parts of it that I can look at now and think, I remember what place I was in as I was writing that character, 5 years ago, and I can see where I was. So I'm certain that, in another, 5-10 years, I'll look back on the book itself and be like, oh, I recognise where I am now. I would say I'm clearly in all the different characters. I don't think you can write a character without having a little bit of yourself involved in it. But I would also say I've picked and chosen from people that I know, sort of in real life as well, who little aspects of different people's characters themselves that ended up within Arctic, and the girl and the scientist and the Gaia agent. They have really all come together sort of from both imagination and real life.
It's really interesting to go out and people watch, and that's how sometimes you do assemble, and you say the personality trait from that person or the personality trait from this one, and then they blend them all together. Now, I know I recognized when I read the story that when you talked about the would you say it please, because I can't?
Oxygenation.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
I haven't got.
It's easier to read than say, I think.
I haven't gone through a podcast yet without at least one blooper, which is great. So I know that's one of the underlying messages is about the environment and how important it is, and if we don't take care of it. So is there any underlying messages, or is there a variety of them that you think people will recognize?
I think there's a few different. I wasn't going into writing this as a sort of way to, you know, say anything specific. Although clearly very specific themes have come throughout the process of writing and as the story's been told, where sort of environmental impact that we're having is definitely one of them. I also think just a sort of acceptance of people as they are. You know, the universe that I created has. You know, basically everyone within it has modified themselves in some way, whether it's sort of intellectually or physically or something like that, to change themselves to sort of fit into society, or to change themselves from society and to remove themselves from it. And I think like that is something that we sort of see today, and we see within our own sort of societies within the UK and within the world. And I just sort of, I find it really interesting the way that sort of we need to kind of fit in and yet have acceptance for everyone else, for everyone else's differences as well.
I think that's such an important message, and it, you know, for everybody to learn in a fun way. It's not like you're preaching to anybody, but that's a subliminal message. Yes.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think that a lot of times our thinking nowadays can unfortunately be quite black and white, and I have found that, you know, being open and accepting to various shades of grey, not like that, but varying different you know, opinions and thoughts, and, you know, things aren't always 100% one way or the other. There's lots of little steps in between that as well, and just sort of being open to that is something that I think is really necessary to do to continue to be a sort of a well-working society,
living together in society. So Arkbound's taken you on a great journey, because they provided assistance in the beginning in this, and now I know we're going to chat about Crowdbound, which for our listeners, Crowdbound is run by Arkbound, and what it is, it's a crowdfunding platform managed by Arkbound, and what they want to do is open up publishing to and enable great projects that are so important, that need social inclusion and environmental sustainability, which your story is all about. So they're actually working to give publishing industry the opportunity to be able to publish your book, which I'm delighted to say, yes, we are part of Crowdfund, and we want to publish your book, and we're going to publish it. It's in the masterpiece that will go out into the world is very important. So how do you feel about this support for your book?
I mean, I'm so excited about it. I'm really, really happy to be part of this new platform. You know, Arkbound has been just amazing, and I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without them. So to see them sort of branching out into crowdfunding is just, and to be part of it as well is amazing. I'm just so happy to have the support of Crowdbound for the book, and I'm sure the platform is going to help lots of other sort of disadvantaged and underrepresented writers and creators sort of get their work out there as well. So I just can't wait to see where it's all going to lead.
And then the first time you hold your book in your hand in a printed version, I'm sure that's going to be exciting for you too.
Oh, definitely. I cannot wait. I'm counting down the days.
Well, now you're going through the editing process, and once that's done, and I know that there's going to be a lot of extras in the book, which we will tease the audience with about, because since it is a different galaxy, there is lots in there that they will learn in the book. So, question is there a possibility for a sequel in the future?
You know, I would absolutely love a sequel. We're not even finished the first book, and I've already been working on little bits and pieces that could make their way into the second book. You know, we'll just have to wait and see. I think let's get the first book out into the world first and see if people enjoy it as well.
Absolutely. I know I've enjoyed it, even in this where it is now without being edited. It's been wonderful to read, and the characters, I love the characters. I have my favorite little character, which I'm not going to mention because we're going to save that for people who will be in the know.
Definitely.
So yes. So the one last thing I'd like to ask you is what advice or message would you give to writers who were in your position, you're in a similar situation now, or in any type of challenging circumstance? What advice would you give to them?
I would say, honestly, just to keep writing. Whatever you're doing, it doesn't have to be for the world to see. Just doing it for yourself is sort of enough. I had never sort of thought that this book would be seen by anyone other than myself, and so I hadn't necessarily worried too much about what it was that I would write, and it provided me a freedom to explore the universe I was creating and the sort of characters and the emotions that I was feeling myself without having to think too much about other people, and seeking out the opportunities to then, if you have something that you want to publish, although it's difficult and although it is incredibly time consuming, which is often one of the barriers to get into publishing, it's so worth it, and sort of getting in touch with a charity like Arkbound can just set you on a path that you never knew was possible. I definitely didn't think I was going to be here just a year after graduating university to be able to sort of say that I'm in the process of getting a book published. It's incredible.
That it's wonderful advice, and I think it's really, really key in that you do use that for your characters and getting your feelings into it and putting that into it. And that's why I think the story reads so well, is when we pour ourselves into a story, it becomes a part of us, and then it not necessarily that the message is intended, but it does go out there. And I think those are wonderful, and the characters that you've created are absolutely fantastic. And you created your own world that you could control, which I think is wonderful.
It's certainly been good fun.
So Nat, I'd love to thank you for joining us here today over the phone. We've done this in a different tech way. Normally we're out and about in the world, as our listeners know. However, you're in a secret location of which you'd love to tell us, but you'd have to kill us. So we'll just go down without. So I just really love to thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great fun. I can't wait to listen.
And get it out to all those other listeners. So I would love to do my shout out today, which I do, all of us do every week. My shout out is to Arkbound and Crowdbound, because without them, I would not have met Nat. What a wonderful author and a world she's created. And without Crowdbound, we wouldn't have the opportunity to publish the book. So I'm going to put detailed information on our website as well as the details on our description so that you can be part of Crowdbound. Look it up, Jasami Publishing, wherever you want to go, you're going to find us there. So that's my shout out. Who's your shout out to, Nat?
I have put as much thought into this as I could, and I would really like to give a shout out to one of my tutors at university. He's one of my professors called Alan McPherson. He was the first person to ever see any of the writing that ends up being Call of the Void. And I remember feeling sick when I showed it to him, but he came back to me and said that he really enjoyed the story and the writing, and so it actually gave me the confidence to submit my application to Arkbound and to eventually meet yourself and to get published. So I don't think I would have ever even applied to Arkbound if it hadn't been for him. So a big shout out to Alan.
Oh, wow. Thank you. And thank you to Alan. So here it is. I'd love to say cheerio to everybody and let you know what our next episode will be about. It's Eilidh Elder from Arkbound, and she's going to go into a little bit more detail about the charity itself. So I thank you, Nat.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I wish all of our listeners, as always, a sunny week. We'll see you next time. Bye.